My sister looked me in the eyes as I lay in a hospital bed, fighting for my life, and said, "Mickey Mouse was more important than your surgery." What she didn't know was that the entire family was standing right behind her, hearing every word. And what happened next? Let's just say Karma doesn't take vacations even if she does. My name is Sarah, and I'm 32 years old. For the past 6 years, I've been living with Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammatory bowel condition that's slowly been destroying my intestines from the inside out. If you've never experienced chronic illness, let me paint you a picture. Imagine waking up every morning feeling like someone's taken a cheese grater to your insides. Imagine planning your entire day around where the nearest bathroom is. Imagine losing jobs, missing family events, and watching your social life evaporate because you're too sick, too tired, or too embarrassed to explain what's happening to your body. I've tried everything over these 6 years. Medications that cost $800 a month, even with insurance. Elimination diets that left me eating plain chicken and white rice for weeks on end. Biologics that made my hair fall out. Steroids that made me gain 40 pounds and gave me moonface so severe I didn't recognize myself in mirrors. Physical therapy, mental therapy, acupuncture, meditation, probiotics that promised to heal my gut naturally. You name it, I've tried it. Nothing worked long term. The inflammation just kept spreading, eating away at my intestines like termites in a wooden house. My doctor, Dr. Morrison, had been monitoring me for 3 years. She's one of those no-nonsense types who tells you the truth, even when it hurts. Last March, she sat me down in her office with my latest colonoscopy results displayed on her computer screen. The images looked like a war zone, angry red tissue, ulcerations, strictures narrowing my bowel to dangerous widths. "Sarah, we need to talk about surgery," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "The inflammation has progressed significantly. You have multiple strictures now, and the scarring is severe. If we don't intervene surgically, you're at high risk for a complete bowel obstruction or perforation. Either of those could kill you." I'd known this was coming. Part of me had known for months. But hearing it out loud made it real in a way that terrified me. What kind of surgery? A bowel resection. We'll remove the diseased portion of your intestine, probably about 30 centimeters, and reconnect the healthy parts. It's a major surgery, but it could give you your life back. Most patients see significant improvement. Some even go into remission for years. And the cost? Dr. Morrison's expression shifted, and I knew the answer before she said it. With your current insurance, you're looking at about $68,000 out of pocket. I made $32,000 a year as a part-time graphic designer. I'd had to go part-time 2 years ago when my disease became too unpredictable for full-time work. My boss had been understanding, but I'd lost my good insurance when I dropped to part-time status. My current insurance, the cheapest plan I could afford, had a massive deductible and didn't consider the surgery medically necessary because I wasn't, in their words, in immediate life-threatening danger. Never mind that I was living in constant agony. Never mind that I'd lost 50 pounds over 2 years and now weighed 98 pounds at 5'6". Never mind that I couldn't work full-time, couldn't eat normal food, couldn't live a normal life. According to my insurance company, I could wait. So I did what millions of desperate Americans do when the healthcare system fails them. I started a GoFundMe. I'd never asked anyone for money in my entire life. My parents raised me to be independent, to work hard, to solve my own problems. The humiliation of putting my medical struggles online for the world to see was almost worse than the physical pain. But I was out of options. I spent a whole weekend crafting the perfect campaign. I posted photos from my hospital stays, copies of my diagnosis letters, a detailed explanation of what Crohn's disease was, and what the surgery would accomplish. I recorded a video sitting on my bathroom floor, one of the only places I spent significant time explaining through tears that I just wanted my life back. The response shocked me. Within the first day, I'd raised $2,000. My best friend from college, Emma, shared it on her Facebook page. Her mother, who I'd only met twice, donated $100 with a message that said, "No one should have to beg for health care. Praying for you, sweetheart." Former coworkers from jobs I'd left years ago contributed. My old high school English teacher sent $50. Complete strangers found my campaign and donated $5, $10, $20, with messages that broke my heart and healed it at the same time. "Stay strong. You've got this. My sister has Crohn's too. I understand. Sending love and prayers." I'd also been documenting my health journey on a small YouTube channel for about a year. I'd started it initially as a way to process my feelings about being sick, talking to a camera about the things I couldn't say to people in my life. I had maybe 300 subscribers, other chronically ill people who understood what I was going through. When I posted about the GoFundMe, those 300 people became an army. They shared. They donated. They rallied their own communities. Within 4 months, I'd raised $43,000. Combined with the $12,000 I'd managed to save by living on ramen noodles and skipping every non-essential expense, and a medical loan of $13,000 at a horrifying interest rate, I finally had enough. $68,000. My ticket to a life without constant pain. I called Dr. Morrison's office on a Tuesday in September, my hands shaking as I confirmed I could pay. The surgery was scheduled for November 18th. Everything was set. Pre-op appointments were booked. I had a calendar on my wall where I crossed off each day, counting down to the surgery like a kid waiting for Christmas. For the first time in 6 years, I felt hope. Real, tangible, life-changing hope. That's when my sister Jennifer entered the picture more prominently. Jennifer is 3 years older than me, and we'd always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child straight A's, captain of the cheerleading squad, homecoming queen, full scholarship to college. I was the artsy weirdo who spent lunch period in the art room and preferred books to parties. Our parents loved us both, but there was always an unspoken understanding that Jennifer was the successful one, the one who did everything right. She'd married Derek right out of college. He was handsome, charming, worked in car sales, and quickly moved up to management. They had 3 kids in quick succession. Madison, now 11, Tyler, 9, and Emma, 6. They lived in a big house in a gated community, drove 2 new cars, took annual vacations to exotic locations. Every Christmas card showed a picture-perfect family in matching outfits, everyone smiling with impossibly white teeth. I'll admit, I'd been jealous sometimes. While Jennifer was living her best life, I was struggling to keep my apartment and pay medical bills. But I loved my sister, and when I got sick, she stepped up in ways I hadn't expected. Jennifer drove me to doctor's appointments when I was too weak to drive myself. She picked up my prescriptions when I couldn't leave my apartment. She helped me navigate insurance paperwork that might as well have been written in ancient Greek. She held my hand through painful procedures and brought me soup when I was too sick to cook. She became my caretaker, my advocate, my support system. So when she suggested being added to my savings account just in case of emergency, it seemed completely reasonable. "Sarah, what if something happens and you need someone to access your money quickly?" she said one afternoon in late September. We were sitting in my apartment, and she'd just driven me home from a particularly brutal doctor's appointment. "What if you're unconscious or in surgery and bills need to be paid? I should be able to help you." "That makes sense," I said, my brain foggy from pain and exhaustion. "Yeah, okay. That's probably smart." We went to the bank together the next day. I added her as a secondary account holder with full access. The bank representative explained that she could withdraw, deposit, and manage the account just like I could. Jennifer smiled at me, squeezed my hand, and said, "I've got your back, little sister, always." I trusted her completely. She was my sister, my caretaker, the person who'd proven over and over that she was there for me when I needed her most. Why wouldn't I trust her? What I didn't know was that Jennifer's perfect life was crumbling behind the scenes. Derek had made some bad investments. The car dealership where he worked had been struggling, and his commission had dropped by 60%. They'd maxed out 3 credit cards trying to maintain their lifestyle. They'd had to cancel their annual summer vacation to Hawaii, and Jennifer was panicking about keeping up appearances in their wealthy neighborhood. The kids had been asking why they couldn't do the fun things their friends were doing, and Jennifer, who'd built her entire identity around being the perfect mother with the perfect family, was spiraling. But I didn't know any of that. Not yet. On October 23rd, 3 weeks and 5 days before my surgery, I logged into my bank account to transfer the final payment to Dr. Morrison's office. The deposit was due by the end of the month, and I was being meticulous about timing. I'd been checking the account daily, watching that number like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because it was. It was my life. The balance showed $872. I stared at the screen, sure I'd somehow logged into the wrong account. I refreshed the page. The number didn't change. I refreshed again, my heart starting to pound. Still $872. I checked the transaction history with hands that had started shaking so violently I could barely control the mouse. October 15th. Withdrawal by Jennifer Martinez. $54,000. The world tilted. My vision actually blurred at the edges. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I was seeing. This had to be a mistake. A banking error. A glitch. Jennifer wouldn't. She couldn't. This was my surgery money. My life-saving surgery money. She knew what this meant. She'd helped me raise it. For God's sake. I called the bank, and after being on hold for 17 minutes, that felt like 17 years, a customer service representative confirmed what I was seeing. On October 15th at 2:37 p.m., Jennifer Martinez had walked into a branch location and withdrawn $54,000 in the form of a cashier's check, made out to herself. "Is this fraudulent, ma'am?" the representative asked. "If so, we can start an investigation." I don't know. She's an authorized user on the account. I need to talk to her first. I hung up and immediately called Jennifer. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. I sent a text with fingers that could barely hit the right keys. "Jennifer, where is my money? Call me right now." No response. I called 6 more times over the next hour. Nothing. I sent more texts. "Jennifer, answer your phone. This isn't funny. Where is my surgery money? Call me." Nothing. Despite feeling like I might pass out from the panic and pain, stress always made my Crohn's worse. And my stomach was already cramping. I drove to Jennifer's house. It was a 20-minute drive that I barely remember. I was operating on pure adrenaline and terror. Derek's BMW wasn't in the driveway, but Jennifer's white SUV was parked in its usual spot. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I rang it again, holding it down for a full 10 seconds. I could hear movement inside the house, footsteps, maybe a door closing. Someone was definitely home. "Jennifer." I pounded on the door. "I know you're in there. Open the door. Where's my money?" A curtain twitched in the front window. I saw Madison's face peek out, then quickly disappear. But no one came to the door. I stood there for 15 minutes, pounding and ringing the bell intermittently, before a neighbor came out and asked if everything was okay. I was crying by then. Ugly crying. Probably looking like a complete lunatic. "I need to talk to my sister," I managed to say. "It's an emergency." The neighbor, an older woman I'd met once at a family barbecue, looked uncomfortable. "I think they might be out, dear. Maybe try calling?" "She's not answering her phone." "Oh. Well. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you." I drove home and immediately called our mother. "Mom." My voice cracked. "Mom, Jennifer took all my surgery money. Every single dollar. I don't know what to do." "What?" "Honey, slow down. What are you talking about?" I added Jennifer to my bank account to help with medical emergencies, and she withdrew $54,000, all my GoFundMe money. All my savings. Everything, and now she won't answer her phone. My surgery is in 3 weeks. What am I supposed to do? My mother, Patricia, has always been the family peacekeeper. Her default response to conflict is to smooth it over, find the middle ground, assume the best in everyone. "Sarah, sweetheart, there must be some mistake. Maybe there's a banking error. Jennifer wouldn't take your surgery money. She's been helping you for months." "Mom, it's not a banking error. The bank confirmed it." Jennifer walked into a branch and withdrew a cashier's check for $54,000. It says her name right there in the transaction history. There was a long pause. I could hear my mother breathing, processing. "Let me call her. I'm sure there's an explanation. Maybe she moved it to a different account for safekeeping. Or maybe she's investing it somewhere with better interest before your surgery." Even as Mom said it, we both knew how ridiculous it sounded. "Just please find out where my money is, please." 2 hours later, 2 hours, I spent refreshing my bank account over and over like the number might magically change. My mother called back. Her voice sounded strained. "Wrong. Sarah, I talked to Jennifer. And she said she borrowed the money. She said it was an emergency and she's going to pay it back." My brain couldn't process those words. Borrowed $54,000. What emergency? What could possibly? "She took the family to Disney World." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. My brain had simply stopped functioning. "Sarah, are you there?" "Disney World," I repeated flatly. Jennifer stole my life-saving surgery money to go to Disney World. She didn't steal it, Mom said, but her voice was weak. She didn't believe her own words. She borrowed it. She said the kids had been so stressed with Derek's work situation, and they'd already had to cancel their Hawaii trip, and Madison was having anxiety attacks. And, is she insane? The words came out as a shriek. Mom, I could die without this surgery. Did she not think about that? Did she not think about the hundreds of strangers who donated their hard-earned money to save my life? She spent it on overpriced churros and mouse ears. She said she'll pay you back by Christmas. Christmas? My surgery is in November. And how exactly is she going to pay back $54,000 when Derek's barely making commission? I don't know, honey, I don't know. But I'm sure she didn't mean. I hung up on my mother. I'd never hung up on her before in my life. But I physically could not continue that conversation. I spent the rest of the evening curled on my bathroom floor, vomiting from stress and pain, crying so hard I thought I might actually die right there. Over the next week, I called Jennifer 68 times. Yes, I counted. She never answered. I texted her 42 times. No response. I drove to her house 4 more times. She pretended not to be home even though her car was in the driveway. I called Dr. Morrison's office and explained what happened. The scheduler, a sweet woman named Beth who'd been so kind throughout this process, sounded horrified. Oh my God. Sarah. I don't even know what to say. But I have to tell you. Without the payment, we can't hold your surgical slot. Dr. Morrison's schedule is booked months in advance. We have a waiting list of patients who need this same procedure. I understand. I said, my voice hollow. I'll figure something out. But I had no idea how. I posted an update on my GoFundMe, explaining that a family member had taken the money. I didn't name Jennifer. Some part of me was still trying to protect her, but I said the funds had been stolen and I was looking into legal options. The response was immediate and overwhelming. People were furious on my behalf. Comments poured in. File a police report now. Who does this to their own family? This is fraud. Press charges. We'll help you raise the money again. Some people offered to donate again, which made me cry because these were people who'd already given once. But I couldn't accept. I couldn't ask for money twice because my own sister had betrayed me. The shame was crushing. A week after the theft, Jennifer finally sent me a text message. I'm sorry you're upset. But my kids needed this. You don't understand the pressure we've been under. Derek might lose his job. The kids were suffering. I'll pay you back when I can. Stop harassing me. I read that message probably 50 times, each time feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Stop harassing her. I was harassing her. My sister had stolen my surgery money, and I was the villain for being upset about it. My condition deteriorated rapidly. The stress triggered a massive flare-up. The inflammation in my intestines kicked into overdrive. I lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. 12 pounds I absolutely could not afford to lose. I was down to 86 pounds. My ribs showed through my skin. My face looked skeletal. I was too weak to work at all. On November 9th, 9 days before my now canceled surgery date, I woke up in the middle of the night with pain unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It felt like someone had stabbed me in the stomach and was twisting the knife. I tried to get to my phone to call 911, but I collapsed in my hallway. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, found me 6 hours later. When she came to check on me, she'd noticed I hadn't taken in my mail for 2 days. She had my spare key for emergencies, and thank God she decided to use it. She called 911, and the last thing I remember was paramedics loading me onto a stretcher, while Mrs. Chen held my hand and told me I was going to be okay. I woke up in the ICU at St. Mary's Hospital. The room was dim, and it took me a minute to remember where I was or what had happened. My mother was sitting in a chair beside my bed, her eyes red and swollen from crying. When she saw me awake, she gasped and grabbed my hand. Thank God. Oh, thank God, Sarah. You're awake. What? My throat was raw, my voice barely a whisper. What happened? Your bowel perforated, honey. You went into septic shock. They had to do emergency surgery. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Septic shock. That meant infection throughout my body. That meant I'd been dying. They couldn't wait for your scheduled surgery, Mom continued, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Morrison said if Mrs. Chen had found you even an hour later. Sarah, we almost lost you. Over the next few hours, as I drifted in and out of consciousness, Different doctors came to explain what had happened. The chronic inflammation had weakened my intestinal wall so severely that it had ruptured. Intestinal contents had spilled into my abdominal cavity, causing a massive infection. They'd had to do emergency surgery much more extensive than the original planned procedure. They'd removed nearly twice as much of my intestine as Dr. Morrison had originally planned. They'd given me a temporary ostomy bag because my remaining intestine was too inflamed to reconnect safely. I'd gone into septic shock and had been on pressors to keep my blood pressure up. I'd been, quite literally, hours from death. The emergency surgery had cost $92,000. Thankfully, I'd qualified for emergency Medicaid when I'd lost my full-time job, and that covered most of it. But the deductibles and copays would still be substantial. More debt I couldn't afford. More burden I couldn't handle. All because my sister had decided Disney World was more important than my life. On my 4th day in the hospital, I was finally awake and alert enough to process everything. My father had flown in from Arizona. My brother Marcus and his wife came from 2 states away. My Aunt Carol, Uncle Jim, and several cousins visited. Everyone was trying to be supportive, but I could see the rage simmering under the surface. They all knew what Jennifer had done. That afternoon, I heard a commotion outside my room. Raised voices. Someone arguing with a nurse. Then my mother's voice, sharp and stressed. "Jennifer, now is not a good time." The door burst open, and there she was. My sister, the woman who shared my DNA, who I'd trusted with everything, who'd helped raise me when we were kids. She looked fantastic. Tan. Rested. Her hair had fresh highlights, blonde and golden, and expensive looking. She was wearing a brand new purple sweatshirt with Mickey Mouse on the front, the kind they sell in the parks for $60. She had a Disney magic band still on her wrist. "Oh my God, Sarah," she said, rushing to my bedside like she was the concerned sister coming to check on me. "I just heard you were in the hospital. Why didn't anyone tell me sooner?" I stared at her. This woman who'd stolen my surgery money, ignored my calls for weeks, told me I was harassing her, and now had the audacity to act concerned. I'd imagined this moment dozens of times over the past weeks, what I'd say when I finally saw her again. I'd practiced speeches in my head, but now, looking at her in her Disney sweatshirt, all those words evaporated. "Get out." Jennifer blinked. "What?" "Get out. Sarah, don't be dramatic. I came to see how you're doing. I heard you were sick. You stole my surgery money and spent it on Disney World, and I almost died because I couldn't afford the procedure. Get out of my room." "Okay, you're twisting everything. It wasn't like that. You're making it sound way worse than it was." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "How am I twisting it? You took $54,000 without asking. Money that people donated to save my life. You spent it on vacation. Those are just facts. I told you I'd pay you back. You don't have to be so hostile." "When? When exactly are you going to pay back $54,000, Jennifer?" She shifted uncomfortably, her jaw tightening. "I don't know. But that doesn't mean you get to treat me like some kind of criminal. You gave me access to that account. Technically, I had every right. You had the right to steal money for your vacation. Stop calling it stealing. And yes, we took a family trip. My kids really needed it. Sarah, you don't understand what we've been going through." Madison was having panic attacks about Derek's job situation. Tyler's grades were dropping. Emma was having nightmares every night. We're their parents. We had to do something to help them. "So you decided to let your sister die." "Oh my God, stop being so melodramatic. You're not dead. You're fine. I have sepsis. I almost died. I have a bag attached to my stomach because my intestine exploded. Well, if you'd taken better care of yourself in the first place, maybe." My mother, who'd been standing quietly near the door, stepped forward. "Jennifer, that's enough." But Jennifer was on a roll now, her face flushing red. "No, you know what? I'm tired of tiptoeing around this. Sarah has been sick for years. Years. And everyone acts like the world revolves around her. Oh, poor Sarah. She can't come to Christmas. Oh, poor Sarah. She can't work full-time. Oh, poor Sarah. She needs surgery. Well, what about my kids? What about their mental health? They matter too." "Of course they matter," I said, my voice shaking. "But they matter more than my life? That's what you're saying?" Jennifer's eyes narrowed, and I saw something in them I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating. Look, Sarah, I'm sorry you're upset, but at the end of the day, Mickey Mouse was more important than your surgery. My kids' happiness and mental health matter more than your stomach problems. They actually contribute to society. They have futures. You're just sick all the time. And honestly, the money was better spent on them. They deserve good things. You're probably going to be sick forever anyway. So what difference does a few more months make? The room went completely, utterly silent. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what my sister had just said to me. That my life was worth less than a vacation. That I didn't deserve to be healthy because I was already sick. That her children's temporary happiness was more valuable than my survival. Jennifer's expression shifted as she realized what had come out of her mouth. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. She slowly, mechanically turned around. Standing in the doorway was our entire family. My mother and father, frozen in shock. My brother Marcus with his mouth literally hanging open. His wife with her hand over her mouth. My Aunt Carol looking like she'd been slapped. Uncle Jim with his fists clenched at his sides. And Derek, Jennifer's husband Derek, standing behind everyone with his hands in his hair. His face a mask of absolute horror. They'd all heard every single word. Mom. Jennifer started, her voice suddenly small. I didn't mean it like that. I was just, get out of this hospital. My mother's voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the room like a blade. Get out right now. Mom, please, I didn't mean. Get out. My mother screamed it. And I'd never heard her raise her voice like that in my entire life. Get out, get out, get out. Jennifer fled. Literally ran from the room, pushing past family members who stepped aside like she was contaminated. The door slammed behind her, and everyone stood in silence for a long moment. Derek was the one who broke it. He walked slowly into the room, not looking at anyone, his face gray. He stood at the foot of my bed and finally met my eyes. Sarah, I swear to God, I didn't know. She told me her parents gave us the money for the trip. She showed me fake bank statements. I had no idea where it really came from. If I had known, his voice broke, I would never have let her do this. Never. I am so sorry. Where is she? My father asked, his voice deadly quiet. My dad is a retired prosecutor, 6'3" and intimidating when he wants to be. Where did Jennifer go? I don't know, Derek said. Home probably. But I don't think I can go back there right now. I don't think I can even look at her. What happened next moved with shocking speed. My father made one phone call to his former colleague at the district attorney's office. Within 3 hours, Detective Sarah Paulson arrived at the hospital to take my statement. She was kind but professional, explaining that what Jennifer had done was felony theft and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I qualified as vulnerable due to my medical condition. This is a serious crime, Detective Paulson explained. We're talking about $54,000 stolen from someone who needed it for life-saving medical care. The DA is going to want to prosecute this fully. But she's my sister, I said, even though I didn't know why I was defending her after what she'd said. That makes it worse, not better, the detective said gently. She was in a position of trust. She had access to your account specifically to help you. And she exploited that. Within days, the police had seized Jennifer's financial records, credit card statements, bank accounts, everything. The evidence was overwhelming and damning. Disney charges $8,347 for park tickets, hotel, and dining package. Character breakfast, $374. Matching family shirts, $286. Souvenirs, $1,842. The list went on and on. She'd spent $62,000 total, my $54,000 plus another $8,000 she'd borrowed from friends, telling them the money was for my medical care, while I'd been literally dying. Jennifer had been posting Instagram photos with hashtags like #MagicalMemories, #BestMomEver, #DisneyFamily, #Making Memories. The photos showed her and Derek and the kids in matching mouse ears, eating overpriced ice cream, hugging Disney characters, watching fireworks over the castle. Madison's anxiety must have been really bad for her to smile that big in front of Cinderella's castle. The internet found those photos. My story had started going viral after someone shared my GoFundMe update. Local news picked it up, then regional news, then national news. Sister steals surgery money for Disney trip was a headline that apparently resonated with people. because suddenly I was getting interview requests from everyone. I declined most of them. I didn't have the energy, but a few I accepted because I wanted people to understand how broken the healthcare system was, how desperate people had become, how medical fundraising had become necessary for survival. Derek filed for divorce immediately. He hired a forensic accountant who proved that Jennifer had forged his signature on the cashier's check and created fake documents to hide what she'd done. He genuinely hadn't known, and his horror and guilt were palpable every time I saw him. He set up an automatic payment plan to return every single penny, even though legally he might not have been obligated. He took on a second job doing night shifts at a warehouse. He sold their boat, the one they'd bought 2 years ago. He sold their timeshare in Florida. He was desperate to make this right. My parents were devastated. Mom blamed herself for not seeing who Jennifer really was. Dad was coldly furious in that prosecutor way of his. They gave me $30,000 from their retirement fund and refinanced their house to help with my mounting medical bills. I tried to refuse, but Dad said, "Sarah, we failed you. We raised a daughter who thought her sister's life was worth less than a vacation. Let us do this." My brother Marcus set up a new GoFundMe, this time with my story fully explained. "My sister stole my surgery money for Disney World" was the title. It went viral immediately. The donations poured in faster than I could process. $20, $50, $100, $500. One person donated $5,000 with a message, "I have Crohn's too. This could have been me. Get well, Sarah." Within 2 weeks, the GoFundMe had raised over $200,000. Strangers sent cards, flowers, and messages of support. Someone started a petition to reform GoFundMe's fraud protections and got 90,000 signatures. Another person created a website dedicated to helping people who'd been victims of medical fundraising theft. My story became a catalyst for a larger conversation about healthcare, desperation, and betrayal. Jennifer's children, my nieces and nephew, were temporarily removed from her custody while social services investigated. Madison, Tyler, and Emma went to stay with Derek while everything got sorted out. Derek had to explain to them that Mommy had done something very, very wrong, that she'd hurt Aunt Sarah very badly, and there were going to be serious consequences. Madison, who was old enough to understand, sent me a letter written in her careful 11-year-old handwriting. "Dear Aunt Sarah, I'm so sorry for going to Disney World while you were sick. I didn't know Mommy took your surgery money. I thought Grandma and Grandpa gave it to us like Mommy said. If I had known, I would have told her no. I hope you get better. I hope you don't hate me. Love, Madison." I sobbed for an hour reading that letter. These kids had done nothing wrong, but they were suffering too. Tyler had apparently said to his father, "Does this mean Mommy's a bad guy? How do you explain to a 9-year-old that his mother valued a vacation over his aunt's life?" Jennifer tried to apologize through her lawyer. She claimed she'd had a mental breakdown, that the stress of Derek's job situation and maintaining their lifestyle had driven her temporarily insane. Her lawyer tried to frame it as a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment during a mental health crisis. But the prosecutor wasn't buying it. The evidence showed clear premeditation. She'd been planning the Disney trip for weeks, carefully booking everything, looking for package deals, arranging the dates. She'd gone to the bank with her ID and my account information and calmly requested a cashier's check for $54,000. She'd lied to Derek about where the money came from. She'd created fake documents. She'd ignored my calls and texts for weeks while I begged for my money back. She'd literally let me nearly die rather than return what she'd stolen. The case went to trial 4 months later. I was still recovering from my 3rd surgery. They'd successfully reversed my ostomy, but I was weak and underweight. I testified from a wheelchair that Derek pushed for me. Jennifer's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, claimed this was a family dispute, blown out of proportion, suggested that I was exaggerating my illness for sympathy. Then the prosecutor played a recording that police had recovered from Jennifer's phone during their investigation. It was a conversation between Jennifer and her friend Melissa from 3 days after Jennifer had taken the money, right before they left for Disney. Melissa's voice, "I'm just worried, Jen. That's a lot of money. And it's Sarah's surgery fund. Are you sure about this?" Jennifer's voice, "Oh, please. Sarah's been sick for years. What difference is a few more months going to make? She'll figure something out eventually. She always does. Besides, she'll probably just waste the money anyway. She's not exactly responsible with finances." Melissa, "But what if something happens? What if she gets sicker? Jennifer. She's always sick. That's like her whole personality at this point. My kids deserve a nice vacation. They deserve to make memories. Sarah can wait. It's not like she's going anywhere. The recording played in the silent courtroom. The jury's faces showed shock, disgust, horror. Jennifer's face was buried in her hands. Even her lawyer looked uncomfortable. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts: felony theft, financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, fraud, and forgery for the fake documents she'd created. Jennifer was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with 3 years suspended if she made full restitution. She'd served 2 years in a minimum security facility and be on probation for 5 more. The judge, a woman in her 60s, who looked like somebody's nice grandmother, delivered the sentence with ice in her voice. Miss Martinez, you betrayed your sister in the most fundamental way imaginable. She trusted you with access to funds meant to save her life. And you stole those funds for personal pleasure. You showed no remorse until you were caught. You allowed your sister to nearly die rather than return what you'd stolen. Your actions were premeditated, calculated, and cruel. While I cannot give your sister back the pain and trauma you've caused her, I can ensure there are consequences for your actions. Derek, true to his word, had already paid back $31,000 by the trial. He was working himself to exhaustion to return every penny, and I believed he would. He'd proven himself to be nothing like his ex-wife. He was horrified by what she'd done and determined to make it right. My recovery was slow but steady. The surgeries worked. Eventually. I still have Crohn's disease. It's a chronic condition. It doesn't just go away, but I'm in the best health I've been in for years. I can eat relatively normally. I can work full-time. I can make plans without worrying about where the nearest bathroom is. The money from the viral GoFundMe paid off all my medical bills and left me with enough for a down payment on a small house. A real house. With a yard and everything. I started a nonprofit organization called Medical Fundraising Justice Network to help other chronically ill people who've been victims of medical fundraising, fraud, or theft. It's small, but we've helped about 40 people so far with legal fees, replacement funds, and support. We're working on lobbying for better protections on fundraising platforms. I also met someone. His name is James, and he saw my story on the news. He has Crohn's disease too, and sent me a message saying he understood what I'd been through, that he'd also struggled with medical costs and the fear of not being able to afford treatment. We started talking, then video chatting. Then he drove 6 hours to meet me for coffee. We've been dating for 8 months now, and he's the first person I've been with who truly understands the reality of chronic illness. He doesn't expect me to be healthy all the time. He knows what a flare-up means. He understands that sometimes I need to cancel plans because I'm too sick to leave the bathroom. It's amazing being with someone who gets it. As for Jennifer, she writes me letters from prison. Long, rambling things about how sorry she is, how prison has changed her, how she's in therapy, and finally understanding what she did, how she hopes someday I might forgive her. The first few letters tried to explain and justify she was stressed. Derek's job was in jeopardy. The kids needed something positive. She wasn't thinking clearly. The more recent ones have been more genuinely remorseful. Or at least they seem to be. But I don't read them anymore. I haven't read one in 3 months. My therapist, Dr. Williams, said something that stuck with me. You don't owe your abuser forgiveness, even if they share your DNA. The last I heard, Jennifer has become a cautionary tale in the chronic illness community. People share the news articles as warnings about trust and access to fundraising accounts. Reddit threads about medical fundraising fraud always mention my story. There's even a podcast episode about it called When Family Becomes the Enemy. I don't know how I feel about being famous for this, but if it helps even one person protect themselves, maybe it's worth it. Madison, Tyler, and Emma are in therapy, processing everything. Derek has full custody and is doing an incredible job giving them stability and normalcy. I see them occasionally. We meet at parks or restaurants. Neutral spaces where we can spend time together. I refuse to punish my nieces and nephew for their mother's choices. Madison is doing better, though she's still struggling with anxiety. Tyler is more resilient than he seemed. Emma barely remembers the whole situation, which is probably for the best. Sometimes people ask me if I regret adding Jennifer to my account, if I should have seen it coming. The honest answer is complicated. Yes, I regret it. Obviously, I regret it. But I also know that Jennifer showed me her true character. She revealed who she really was when she thought no one important was watching. Better to know that than to continue trusting someone who saw my life as less valuable than her vacation. My mother still struggles with what happened. She sees a therapist now too, processing the guilt and grief of realizing one of her daughters tried to kill the other because that's what it was, really. Taking my surgery money when she knew I was dying without that procedure was attempted murder by negligence. Mom has cut off all contact with Jennifer, something I never thought she'd do. Dad says Jennifer was always self-centered and entitled, but he never imagined she'd go this far. Me? I'm rebuilding. I'm alive when I shouldn't be. I'm healthy when I could have died. I have a house, a job, a partner who loves me, and a purpose helping others avoid what I went through. I still have nightmares sometimes about checking my bank account and seeing that zero balance, about lying in the ICU, about that moment when Jennifer said my life was worth less than Mickey Mouse. But I'm here. I'm surviving. I'm even thriving in ways I never expected. And Jennifer? She's in a 6x8 cell, wearing orange scrubs instead of Disney ears, eating commissary food instead of Dole Whips, and finally understanding that karma doesn't take vacations, even if she does. She thought she could steal my life for her pleasure, but in the end, she lost everything. Her freedom, her children, her husband, her family, and her reputation. Mickey Mouse may live in the happiest place on earth, but Jennifer found out that some magic comes with a very high price. And sometimes, the bill comes due exactly when you least expect it.